I keep telling people, oh, so you do this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, wait, okay, I wasn't a presenter in that case. Okay, we've begun our meeting. Welcome everybody to the April meeting of the North Bay Electric Auto Association. I think this might end up being our 12th YouTube, and I don't know if you've all gone to our channel, but you can see any of the earlier meetings. Elaine contacted me earlier this week and said, oh, I can't make the meeting. Will it be recorded? And I think from now on, the meetings will be recorded even when we get together, because we've had people ask, can I see what you were talking about? Today, our presenter is going to be Woody. Jenny said that she couldn't make it. I'm disappointed. I thought Jenny would do a really great job giving the presentation. You know, I don't know about you, Woody. Introductions. Who are you? How do you get around? And Alan, thank you for jumping on first. And who are you?
Okay, I am, what's the title? President Emeritus now?
Yes.
And I drive a Tesla Model 3.
And I'm Jerry Glazer, and I am currently president. And I sent that to my friends, and they wanted to know why. And I said, because nobody else would do it. David, you're up. Oh, and I'm driving my Leaf. And I didn't include it, but next time around, and I think it was you, David, that got me tuned into this. My Leaf now records how many miles it goes and sends it to the state of California. So they can tell me how much I owe them for my road tax. And I thought that would be a good discussion in our next meeting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
Terry?
Yeah, you're up, David.
I'm Dave Heacock. I'm just a crazy old man that converted an 85 Avani to electric, and I've been driving that a lot more. Planning on upgrading the batteries maybe in June, so it'll be down again, but I'm driving it a lot right now.
What kind of batteries?
I'm going to go to the A123 modules, 8 modules instead of 96 cells. And with John's help, hopefully it'll work. So it should extend my range from about 70 miles upwards to maybe 110, 120 miles, 120 miles. I'm hoping. We'll see what happens.
I may have to ask John at some point too, because Zeno, who's not on yet and may not be on, I'm going to fix his scooter for him. I'm sure the batteries are dead. And I didn't put lithium into my scooter, which I just gave away yesterday. But I'm wondering if you can actually convert to lithium after if you're using other chemistries that work with the controllers. Mike, you're up.
Morning, everybody. My Leaf is now 10 years old, and so that was my emotional threshold. So this summer I will look into upgrading its batteries, but I wanted to go 10 years on the original batteries. So got it.
I think we have something in the presentation for you.
Good.
Okay. Woody.
Hi, everybody. Woody Hastings, and we still drive a 2013 Chevy Volt with the V as in Victor.
And John.
Yeah, John Palmerly. I work at Thunderstruck Motors, where we used to meet, and I'm still driving the green Geo Metro that was our prototype Leaf in Nissan Leaf motor conversions.
Does Brian have a threshold as to when he'll be comfortable for us meeting again in person?
I guess when everybody gets vaccinated. I don't know.
Okay, when we get to the end of the list here, I'm going to ask everybody that question. It's not too personal a question.
Yeah, it's probably me that's going to have the threshold because I'm the kind of virus Nazi there. So.
Okay, Brad.
Yeah, my name is Brad Morrison. I get around in a 2004 Honda Civic Hybrid that I'm hoping to replace with an electric vehicle eventually. And Jerry, you had mentioned your per mile recording. I just wanted to mention also that I recently switched car insurance to Metro Mile, which charges you, well, it charges me $30 a month, like a base flat fee, and then 4.5 cents a mile which turns out to be a lot less than the $95 or so a month I was paying Amica before. So if anyone's interested and you don't drive much, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll bring up, if I can find enough material on, I'll just do it as part of the news. Part of the test that the state was also doing was to tie together the per mile charge that the state would charge you as part of your insurance collection.
Okay.
Okay, so that's they tune into that as well. Sonia, you look good.
Thanks. I figured out how to rename myself, but not how to share video, but you all know what I look like.
Okay.
My name's Sonia Carey. I'm the vice president of the NBEAA, and I have 1,000 miles free on my Tesla Model 3 because I helped a friend get a Model Y and got the referral miles, but they expire in 2 weeks. So I had forgotten that they only last 6 months, not 12 months. And I'm going to run down to the supercharger, so I might leave the meeting a little early.
Okay. Caleb.
So I have a 2015 BMW i3.
And?
And I bought a Morgan three-wheeler, which is not electric, but it's a lot of fun.
Is that what you were registering yesterday?
It is, yeah.
I thought you had finally gotten another family car that was electric. Okay, fine.
No, we considered it, but honestly, getting a Tesla down here in Southern California is incredibly expensive to insure. So it was more than double the cost of what we already insure, just to insure a Model Y.
Wow. Then you should worry about, maybe you can do that on the per mile. You gotta talk to Brad.
Yeah.
Al, you're up.
Hi, I'm McLaughlin, Petaluma, drive a 2019 I-Pace.
Okay. Mark.
Mark Brumbaugh, still driving the 2013 RAV4 EV.
Okay. And Stan?
Hi, we have a 2020 Model Y and a 2002 RAV4 EV still running.
Yeah, that RAV4 is amazing. I have friends in Napa who are still driving theirs as well, and that's their primary car.
Yeah, ours has 115,000 miles. We're maybe getting 40 miles range, and you're not going on the freeways, that's for sure.
Yeah. Ray.
Good morning. Nothing's changed. Still upright and taking nourishment.
Okay, very good.
And thanks to Alan, I couldn't get in.
Joe.
Yeah, still riding my bike.
All right. And Cecilia.
Hi, I am in West County and I drive a 2018 Model 3.
Which probably has a lot of miles on it because
it's out of warranty now, the limited warranty.
All right. I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? Okay. The chapter business. I now have access to the site, so I can actually look at things. We have 38 paying members to the EAA club, and another person entered after we had our poll and caught up. One person just recently got a notice that you're unpaid. So we have, it turns out that we have 10 members who are overdue for less than a year. We have 10 more members who haven't paid for more than a year. We have 138 people who are signed up for the NBEAA club and get the notice for the meetings and other things that are interesting. And as usual, you will get a message kind of like this. It's going to tell you where our YouTube channel is if you want to watch any of the last 12 meetings. It'll give you the link to the previous meeting. It will give you a link to the PDF for this presentation, which will have all of the links to anything that we show here. So if you're interested into digging into any of the news that we picked up, you can pick that news up there. And then it also reminds you, hey, send me news. We didn't get a lot of news this time, so this portion of the meeting is going to be a little bit slower or a little bit shorter. Think about doing a talk. Our next meeting, Zeno's going to give a talk on urban transportation and urban concerns. I don't know what he's going to say. We have nobody for after that. There's a number of topics that have been interesting, and it'd be great to have other people giving talks. I've thought of a couple I'd like to give, but I really bored the hell out of you with the one I gave you on the policy ideas that I had. But it would be great if others do some talks. Our last meeting was Alan covering the charging networks, and the link to the videos here, and also the presentation is there as well. We signed, I have to remember what I put here. We signed the letter to support limiting new gas stations in Sonoma County. And we got 19 paying members who said they supported it out of the 38. And so I said, that's a threshold. We had more than that. We had about 48 votes altogether, of the people that actually responded. I attended the NBEAA meeting, the EAA meeting again, not as president, just as member, to find out more things. And Alan, it's just as boring and just as content free as usual. And I didn't learn the stuff that I wanted to learn. And Alan and Sonia and I spent time trying to hand over the reins. And it turns out that nothing was automated, and the entire club site is not very chapter oriented. So it's difficult to do things. But there's links there on the bylaws. And there were certain other things that I was interested in saying, well, we have bylaws. So I read the bylaws. It turns out our chapter has no bylaws that anybody knows of. Does anybody know of any bylaws that our chapter has? No. Okay. So I looked at the EAA bylaws. Their link on their homepage doesn't work. But luckily, we have a president emeritus who happened to have a copy of the bylaws. So I read the bylaws. And they referred to another document, and I read that document as well. I thought I would share this with everybody. To be an EAA chapter, we have to have at least 2 elected officials. Now, Alan said we had to have a president. It turned out we actually have to have elected officials. Luckily, Sonia and I were elected. So we have 2 elected officials who are current EAA members. I checked. Sonia paid her dues. We have to hold at least 2 meetings or events per year. We have a meeting every month, so we're well over the limit. We have to have a minimum of 5 currently paid EAA members. As of today, we have 38. We have 38 again. We have to agree to abide the EAA organizational bylaws, which is about 25 pages worth of bylaws. Most of them say don't spit on the sidewalk. We have to abide by the EAA's code of ethics. That also says don't spit on the sidewalk. And your chapter name, which has to be unique, has to include the designation EAA in it, or Electric Auto Association, or a statement that says affiliated with the Electric Auto Association. So we're not a subchapter of the EAA. We are affiliated with the EAA. So that's the way they work everything. And I listened to the other chapters. Many of them belong to other associations as well. But they're a club, and they're associated with the EAA, and they may be associated with somebody else. And so I brought this question up. In the vote that we had, if we want to support something, a political issue, or either in the county or in the state or any place else, I had the first thing that came up and was sent to us, and I thought was interesting. I just sent out a poll and said, okay, if we get 11 people, then okay, I'll write and say, hey, the club supports it. this last time Woody asked, and I said, well, we don't really have a formal way of doing this. So I thought it'd be good to have a discussion about this, of how many people have to support in order to say the North Bay EAA supports this. Is there a limit of who can vote and who cannot vote? And should the president's name be included in any signature? When I sent the signature or said we supported it and I sent it to Woody, I didn't put my name on it. But Woody said, well, you know, should we put the president's name? I want to put the president's name on there. I don't know how we want to do that. And down here now says discussion, which means discuss. Can I get some opinions?
Well, I think you already know my opinion. I think that paid members ought to be the voters. And was it Cecilia that set up that method of voting? Was fabulous.
Yeah, that was great. Fantastic job.
To me, that's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Stan, you agreed. So paying members, huh?
Yeah. Paying members and just a simple majority.
Right.
Simple majority of those who vote.
Mhm.
Okay. So,
Okay, this is Sonia. I support what's been said so far. And I just wanted to point out, this is a really good milestone because it gives us the chance to, act out in the community a little quicker. And thanks to Cecilia for setting up that anonymous voting system. I don't know if everyone realized it was anonymous as well.
Yeah. Initially, it was not. So I know how Lowell voted.
Once we make this decision, can we make it a bylaw?
Well, if we had bylaws, yeah.
It could be our first.
Okay. It's kind of funny because in the past, when Alan was running the meetings and we were physical, and he would say, well, how does everybody feel about this? It was the people who are in the room voted. And we never asked who paid, who didn't pay, or whatever else. So you're all in the room right now. Let me ask 2 questions. First question, should the votes which are counted only be paying members? Would you raise your hand? You don't have to use the computer raise. Oh, maybe you do have to use the computer raising one. Only paying members?
I agree.
3,
I agree.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Mark agrees as well.
Mark agrees. Did you say that, Mark?
Yeah, for some reason my video's not working today. I know why. Oh, okay, just realized.
Okay, 9 out of 15 is majority. I would just take everybody who joined the club. I mean, that would have been good for me. I didn't need paying members, but okay, we have a majority. Okay, I will announce that. We can always change it because we can change those bylaws. We may have to, Cecilia, what we can do is we can make a page when we have an easier editing website, and we can put the bylaws there, not in a Word document, say, here's our bylaw. First bylaw, in order to support something publicly, we need to have a majority. First, the next is, it's the majority of people who vote, not a majority of the paying members. Would everybody raise their hand that agrees with that?
Say that again.
Was that confusing? What I used last time was a majority of paying members, okay, which meant I had to wait for 19 votes. If only 10 people voted and everybody was asleep, I wouldn't know what to do.
So Jerry, in my opinion, we could do what you're talking about, and that's have anybody on the email list essentially vote. But I think we ought to change the name of the chapter from the North Bay Electric Auto Association, because that pretty directly includes us in the Electric Auto Association. I just think we need to be careful about representing the Electric Auto Association.
But we're not representing the Electric Auto Association.
Jerry, that's a technicality. Sorry, that's a technicality that nobody outside this group would understand. Maybe even nobody outside you.
Well, and Alan, we've already gone past that. If we want to be affiliated with the EAA, then we have to have EAA in our name, or Electric Auto Association in our name, or we have to have something underneath that says affiliated with the EAA.
Okay. So,
okay. That's a requirement of
We
the
do
bylaws
have
of
EAA in our
if you want to
name.
be affiliated. So we already gone past that. We are affiliated, okay? And we already gone past whether it was paying members. My question here is, when people vote, of the paying members, do I need to wait till there's a majority of paying members or a majority of those who voted on an issue?
Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you meant of anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, you'd have to have some time frame. You couldn't put a vote out with a 4-hour time frame and then just take the 2 people that did vote. I mean, you'd have to say, you give people 7 days, a minimum of 7 days, something like that, but otherwise I'm for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Somehow the vote has to be announced. Either it could be done at a regular meeting like today's meeting, or it has to be announced like Al just talked about, right?
Yeah, and the hang up was both this one and the previous one. If it had been something that we needed to vote on and there was a meeting in between, I would bring it up at the meeting, right? In this case and in the previous case, it was before the meeting, they needed to either get yay or nay if we were supporting something. John?
Yeah, well, the problem is, whether it's at a meeting or not, and if we just generally require that we announce a meeting 7 days in advance, then we can say that, these decisions can be made at meetings that are held after an announcement of 7 days, or 7 days if it's an impromptu thing.
If you guys said we have to announce that there will be a vote and it has to be at least 7 days in advance, I don't think I have a problem with that. And that says there are things that will come up. Woody, did you send this to me 7 days before? I think it was less than that, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think it was either right around 7 days or a little bit less than 7 days. Sorry about that.
If you want to make it 7 days, that says that anything that comes in that's less than 7 days, I can ignore because we're not going to support it.
Right. You could make it 5 days, and then maybe that's a little better time frame.
All right.
Well, but just to clarify, it can be anything we bring up at the meeting, but the meeting has to have a notification of a certain time period to be legal, and then anything we bring up can be voted on. I don't think you have to notify what we're doing.
No, and John, I understood that part. And so that's why the either 7 days or 5 days works okay, because I'm going to follow what our emeritus president established as a precedent of sending out a meeting notification a week in advance. I hope I keep remembering to do that. Somebody remind me if I don't remember to do that. And which case, in that notification, I will also say, and we'll be voting on blah, blah, blah.
I think that's a good, simple way to do it.
Right? Show of hands, agreement that it's going to be
No,
majority of those who have voted.
Wait. I've had my hand up. I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Woody.
The point that I want to make, which is really quite frequently things come up and it's subject to external forces. And as much as you might want to give a group 3 weeks to decide on an issue or whatever, stuff comes up quick and there's reasons why a quick decision needs to be made. So I just want to urge that we have whatever the tightest time frame is, so that you're the minimum that you're willing to accept, 5 days, 4 days, whatever, something, just a week. Quite frequently stuff comes up and there is less than a week to make a decision, and it could be some really important stuff that NBEAA would want to weigh in on, and it's just missing those kinds of opportunities. I don't want you to foreclose on opportunities.
Okay, I have an alternative method to recommend, which is used in municipalities all the time. You must have a quorum. Okay, the quorum then would be today, 19 people must vote on any issue, and it must be a majority of the 19 people. So I'll keep track of how many paying members we have, and 19 is the threshold, in which case it could be any time frame, as long as we get 19 people voting, and a majority of the 19 then say, yep, the club supports this. How's that feel?
No. I mean, we couldn't do anything today.
Yeah, I think most of the time we won't ever get anything done. So I do like the majority of those who voted. And do it with some, just like you did this last one, I think it's fine, but just put the control, or not control, put the traceability on it, that it was voting members who actually represent the NBEAA.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the simple, because as Mike just said, we don't always get full responses, let's put it that way.
Okay, so I'm going to throw one more out. The or condition. I want to address, I think Woody's right. Well, I want to support what Woody's saying. The or condition today, and it worked. When the poll came out, I don't know if everybody could see the results of the poll. Was it limited, Cecilia, that I could see the results, or was it everybody could see the results?
I think people could see the basic results.
Okay. If you looked at the basic results, within 3 hours, we had more than 20 votes. Now, of the 20 votes, I didn't have 19 paying members, but I got 19 paying members within 2 days. So how about the or condition? We have a 5-day notice that we'll bring it up at the club, and you can send in and we'll put the poll out there in any case, right? And we'll use the poll. I think the poll works well because you can only vote once. That worked good. You don't need to know who it is, okay? I'm gonna ask that the question, are you a paying member? And then just accept the people answer it truthfully. Okay?
Where did the number 19 come from, Jerry?
We have 38 paid members.
Okay.
19 it will change, Brad. Okay, if somebody doesn't pay, it's going to be a lower number.
Sounds good to me. You know, we'll have one process for in-meeting votes and another process for kind of in-between meeting votes that need to occur fast.
But I'm suggesting, Sonia, that we still have the poll, and if we bring it up in the meeting and the poll was put out earlier, that in the meeting we can have somebody say, and my opinion is, okay?
Got it. Sounds good.
All right. How's that all sound?
And this, just to be clear, then in the in-meeting decisions, as long as we've announced the meeting within whatever
5 days, 5 days,
we have a majority of who's present, and that's a pass.
Yeah.
But Jerry, also, your opinion as president may be asked by whatever. Maybe you get interviewed by the PD or something. You don't have to go to the rest of us to give your opinion on it.
No, and I will say it's my opinion. I don't
Yeah,
have a problem.
right. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys know I've been a planning commissioner a couple of times and a sustainability commissioner, and people would ask me questions, and you know, you always have to say, I'm here representing me.
Right.
Okay. I can write all this down, or I'd be happy to have a volunteer who would write down what we just finished discussing, and then I'll send that out as part of the notification at the end of this meeting of what we put together, so we have it down at least in one written form, and we'll get it someplace where we can all find it later. Anybody want to write that down?
I did my best to take some notes, and I can send that to you.
You're great. Thank you, Cecilia. Okay, good. Good discussion. Get in the right context. EV events. This is Drive Electric Earth Day, DEED, Drive Electric Earth Day. I couldn't figure out what DEED was. It kept showing up in things. There's not a lot of events because of the pandemic. The only one that I could find was actually in Palo Alto. There's a number of virtual ones that are existing. So if anybody feels like going to Palo Alto and showing a car, you can. I will just point out that Santa Clara County in the last 14 days, the number of new cases has increased by 32%. Sonoma County in the last 14 days, the number of new cases has decreased by 32%. So we're in a weird place. Oh yeah, actually, along with that, before we go further, did anybody feel comfortable sharing whether you're vaccinated yet?
Sure.
Yeah.
Half mine.
Yeah,
Now half a year's ready. Cool.
I'm
Al
happy.
was just gonna say, CVS has got some openings in Santa Rosa, if anybody's looking. Of all the pharmacies, Santa Rosa and Emeryville are the only ones. That was last night.
Yeah.
I've also read that after April 15th, anybody in California can register or make an appointment to get vaccinated.
Yeah. So I think we're getting a majority of the members are vaccinated. And I'll do the political thing here too. I am a person who never got vaccinated for the flu. Because I said, what the hell? I'm going to get the flu. I got vaccinated for this, not because I'm afraid of this. I got vaccinated this because I thought it was a responsibility I had to all of you. Okay. And it's going to be, I have family members. I'm having this discussion with them on a regular basis because I can't get them because they don't understand that if they don't get vaccinated, this is going to stay. And next year, I probably have to have shots again.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we don't kill it like we killed polio and a number of other diseases, it's going to be part of our lives. And I don't like living like this. Right? I like the coffee.
I agree.
Okay. That's my sales pitch. Sorry. You know, Alan, it's really great being president. You get to say this kind of shit.
That's because you're full of shit.
Thanks, John.
Oh, what? You had to jump into? This one, Storage X, I keep talking to you guys about this. I go to these seminars. Stanford puts them on. They're fantastic. The things that I learned there, and they're apolitical because they talk about all kinds of things. They talked about batteries to start with and chemistry to start with. Now they're talking about all kinds of other methods of storing energy. Stephen Chu gave half of the talk this last Friday. Here, so we understand the dimension of the problem. I took this off of one of their talks. The number of quads of energy storage we have. We have 3.6 months of petroleum storage. We have 2.5 months of coal storage. 1 month worth of natural gas. 9 months worth of nuclear. 2.5 days worth of electricity and 12 seconds worth of batteries. This is what you're going to find in the press quite a bit, and the challenge going forward. Stephen Chu's talk this last week, there's been a lot about, oh, we need to put the grid together so that all of the different areas, including Europe to the US, there's actually a really good talk about windmills in Greenland and why they would run full time all the time at a given speed, and putting lines between Greenland and Europe and Greenland and North America. We can't get lines across the United States. Stephen Chu said he tried while he was Secretary of Energy to have this done. Politicians didn't want it. Now, there were a whole bunch of reasons. He went on for about 15 minutes because he goes, it's a large part of the solution and politicians are stopping it from being done. Anyway, I thought those numbers are really, really interesting. This talk also came up. This is carbon dioxide removal. All the people in the world weigh 0.5 gigaton. The global annual production of plastic is 1 gigaton. The global annual consumption of meat is 1/3 of a gigaton. The size of the annual global oil market is 5 gigatons. The amount of carbon dioxide removal that we need to do from now till about 2050 is 5 to 10 gigatons a year. The extent of the problem in front of us is phenomenal. It's unbelievable, the volumes. I found the Volkswagen Day in English, which, by the way, it was given in English, but the links were the translated version in German. Who got to see Volkswagen Day? Anybody? It's a 2-hour video. I'm going to read parts of this. You saw it, that's right, you sent it to me. In German. They're building 6 mega battery factories of 40 gigawatt hours per year each. However, that will only be enough to power the Volkswagen vehicles they're planning on building. They have subscribed to and are paying for a 5-fold increase in the number of charge stations in Europe. Starting in 2022, all of their vehicles will support V2G, and their forecast is they should be able to run your home for 5 days and drive your car every place that you would normally drive during those 5 days, given the way they're going to configure the cars. They partnered with British Petroleum to build 70,000 fast chargers in Europe. And British Petroleum gave the presentation on that part. They expect that the Volkswagen charging network will be cash positive in 5 years and profitable in 9. That is, they're going into the charging business, the fueling business. 80,000 people work at Volkswagen in their electric division. I mean, these numbers are unbelievable. They have already designed and built their own stations that can be installed in places where there is not high power. That is, they'll have storage capacity so they can keep storing and storing and storing, but they can dump it into your vehicle. 80% of all the new Volkswagen vehicles will use the same format batteries so that they'll get volumes. They expect by 2023 a 30% drop in battery costs and a 50% by 2030. They are going to rely on QuantumScape, but for the next few years, until QuantumScape can do production, improved production, they're going to be using NMC batteries that they have patents on. They're building wind farms in Spain to provide the energy for their stations, for their batteries, and for everything else, and for their factories, so that their factories will be net zero. They have a planned life cycle where the first cycle is in the vehicles. They are designing stationary applications and providing stationary systems as the second life, and they've already started building recycle plants where they will recycle everything except for the separator in the batteries. The cars are designed around the battery. This is the same thing the Tesla started doing now as well. It's part of the structural chassis. The ID.4 is going to be delivered in the US this year. They've begun using carbon silicon anodes in 2 of their models already. You guys remember the talk I gave about 1.5 years ago on batteries and what the deal was with silicon? No? The deal is that if the anode has silicon in it, it can store much easier, much faster, and much more lithium than it can if it's just a carbon matrix. The problem is, as it's storing it, the anode tends to expand by 4-fold. And so that's why it would tend to fracture over time. Volkswagen seems to have solved some of the problems. So they're mixing them together. That will increase their ranges and performance. They're going to use lithium iron phosphate for long range batteries instead of NMC. Which also has to do with the video sent, talking about why cobalt and nickel are going to constrain batteries. We probably won't be relying on NMC for much longer. Well, for another 5 years, but after that, we'll start seeing different formulations. And they've redeveloped the entire supply chain so it's climate sensitive for both the battery and vehicle development. They're expecting to reduce their CO2 footprint by 50% at a manufacturing level. I was blown away by it because it wasn't a single announcement. It wasn't, we just invented. It was, we've been planning now for a couple of years, and here's everything we put in place. And they rolled it out at one time. So it's worth it if you want to feel good about the future. John.
Yeah, I was just wondering, well, I'm always curious about why, and you know, the answer that they, because of the lawsuit thing, blah, 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 I don't see why, but it's just, why are they so doing this? And the other question is, I mean, not that I don't like it, I love it, but it's just like, God, this is like they had a brain change or something.
Okay, so they answered this, and I believe that they mentioned at the time of the diesel thing, and actually I read articles just recently on the diesel thing as well, because that came up with, I have to ask Caleb about diesels, because I didn't realize that urea is how you start cleaning up the diesel. And then they didn't put enough in. 2013, I read an article by Volkswagen saying, we're going to be an all electric company. I didn't see anything happening. So they've had this as their roadmap for quite some time. They were explicit about why they were doing this. They said, our customers are demanding that we do this. That was it. They said, this is a business decision. It's not that we suddenly got faith. It was, our customers said, if we're going to buy from you, you have to do this. And so we did it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Any news about the van yet?
No, that's going to be a couple of years. me too. I mean, how far am I going to drive it? I don't know, but it sure looked like fun.
There is, not to sidetrack too much, but there is a place that's out in around Seattle that rents out camper vans that have been converted to electric.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to rent one once, and it was the gasoline powered one. The rental's like $700 a day. I mean, it's crazy. My friend Sham a neighbor has one across the way that's all beat up, doesn't run at all. It's worth $19,000. I mean, from 1962, you know.
Yeah. Check out Pack Westy.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the description or
okay.
in the chat.
So anyway, Volkswagen says they're coming after Tesla. The financial markets say this. This actually, I think, was out of Barron's. Yeah. They're impressed by the Volkswagen Focus. Volkswagen doubled its EV sales 2 years ago. They tripled their EV sales last year. I think, did I read that correctly? Yeah. Oh, doubled again in the pandemic year. Sorry, they tripled the year before. This year, in 2021, they will exceed production in EVs beyond what Tesla's done. Their projection is they're going to sell 1 million electric vehicles this year. Tesla's projection is 700,000. And I've been reading about Volkswagen actually before the battery day. I would have never realized they were the largest vehicle manufacturer in the world. And they, so many of the different brands that they own. They're going to do something Tesla hasn't done. Tesla has, and probably later in here, maybe it's on this slide, the number of repair facilities and dealerships that Tesla has. Volkswagen has a built out dealer network, and they're going to rely on it, but they're not going to sell the vehicles through the dealer network. The vehicles will all be sold on the web, and they'll be at a fixed price. The dealers are there for service, and they're for selling. That is, they will do the demos. They would do everything else. I don't know how they're getting remunerated. Yeah, okay. They expect by 2030 that 70% of their sales will be EVs. Now, in so many different sectors, you know, that'll make a difference as well. I did put this here as well, Biden's infrastructure plan. I have a double star next to 8 years for a reason. I read things like this. And one of the things that Hal Harvey talks about as far as policy is make sure that the policies are long enough and predictable enough that business can respond and rely on the policy. They kept talking about the $2 trillion bill. It's an 8-year, $2 trillion bill. Not that that makes it less. What it makes it is predictable. And so lots of businesses can now look at this, and communities can look at this and say, we know that this is going to be there next year. It's like buying an EV and I'm going to wait till next year to get it. Oh, wait, the benefit's going to be gone, or so many vehicles have been sold, so therefore I can't get it. That I thought was key, more than the level of money. I think all of this you picked up in the news. 20% of the electrification will be 20% electrification of school buses. I thought that's a big sector. We're here in Sebastopol, and I go down and I see the number of school buses. I'm blown away. I had to walk.
Why only 20% in how many years? 8 years? That seems like a layup shot.
It does, doesn't it? But this is the Biden administration. The layup shot was, okay, we're going to have 100 injections in arms in 100 days. Okay, they're going to have 100 million. They had 200 million. Okay, so they're promising something. Maybe they'll go past it. 500,000 charging stations, that would be useful too, as long as they're faster. Whoops, sorry. Anyway, the breakdown I have on here is the breakdown in transportation. And then you may want to pull the deck up to see this stuff even better. And in buildings and utilities, and where the focuses are. And what the heck is at the top of this page here? What happened? I don't know what happened here. Wait a second. I screwed up someplace on this slide and nobody noticed it, or maybe it presents differently. 28%. This is an infograph that I saw, and I thought that was interesting. A group called the Streetlight Group is trying to put all of these big numbers that we get into something that's understandable. And I just picked up 28% of US emissions are from transportation across the board. I know down in the South Bay, it's 40%. Up here, it's higher. And transportation is the largest by far. There was a 14%, this is one number I got, 14% decrease in vehicle miles traveled because of the pandemic. So that vehicle miles traveled was the same as 2001. There we go, Mike. Who sent this video to me? Clevey Motors. This was great. A company in the UK that was an auto shop, and they've now just begun. Oh, you sent out, right?
Yeah.
They've now just. Why don't you talk to it? I don't need to talk to it.
Well, thanks. You made the slide. I didn't make the slide because I didn't know how much interest there'd be in it.
Okay, then I'll talk to it. So they're replacing Gen 1 Leaf batteries in 2011 vehicles with Gen 2 battery packs, which turns out you can put them right in. There's a change in the BMS software, but there's a company in the Netherlands who has the changed software. And so it turns out it's different for every single vehicle. So you have to connect with them. John, you may be interested in picking this up as business and contacting these guys. And then you could take care of Mike and do this. What they're finding is that they're putting in 40 kilowatt packs. And the cost on the 40 kilowatt pack is $12,000. It's a direct replacement. They do it in 4 hours. They're looking at putting in 60 kilowatt hour packs. They have to change the bracket a little bit, and which is the newest pack coming from Nissan. They use used packs from vehicles that have been in accidents. Sound familiar, John? Because the cost of the packs bought directly from Nissan is almost 60% higher than what they can get from trashed vehicles. And anyway, they use the newer chemistry, so they last longer. So instead of having your 50-mile range, you'll probably have much longer range. My 2018 Leaf now it doesn't have a lot of miles on it, just 17,000 miles. I see no degradation whatsoever with the new chemistries. So it was neat. It's a short video. And there's a link to the video down the bottom here.
Does John have any idea what a used pack? Because I know you guys have been buying up used stuff. Do you have any idea what a used pack, the newer chemistry actually costs on the market?
I think something around 5,000 or something, it depends. 5 to 7,000, I think.
Well, these guys are in the UK, so.
Well, remember that 12,000 was out the door. That included payment for the code change, wiring changes, everything.
Well, when I looked at that, I wasn't sure, because I know they asked what the cost was, and I thought he was talking about the cost of the batteries in the video. I'd have to look at it again. But if that's the whole thing, that's pretty damn good. That's a brand new car. A better car.
I can't find messages. Text.
Okay. Sonia, did you send this?
Why is this different?
I think I did.
You want to talk to it?
Sure. So, I think that there was this kind of constraint article that was in regard to where Tesla's at currently in regard to the quality of their service and the accessibility. And they did a little bit of a quality survey and found that definitely there is a problem. And I'd put it out there that it's a problem if you end up with a problem. And so, it's kind of like that risk, that kind of risk analysis. When you buy an ICE engine car and it gets to be 5 years old, you expect, that you're going to need a timing belt or some other expensive kind of service. When it comes to Tesla, you're kind of just rolling the dice. Like, you don't know exactly what's going to show up, but if something does show up, it may be that all the service constraints that are occurring could bite you a little bit. And so that was interesting. Also, I was kind of curious about where Lowell was at around Model S's and touchscreen failures and things like that. I think things like that can get done. So I was just trying to read between the lines, and I was curious to hear what other people's experiences or analysis of this was as well.
Yeah, just a couple more points off of the slide deck here. GM is banking on their service network with their electric vehicles as being attractive, and that they'll woo Tesla customers away if they can get vehicles that are attractive. The one that I picked up out of the article, which surprised me, was that the touchscreens actually have a design life of 5 to 6 years and need to be replaced. You wouldn't expect that in a vehicle, as far as something that, because I keep cars for 20 years. And also the fact that the Tesla, with expecting a 50% growth in sales this year, only expects 11% growth in service centers.
Well, I've had experience with little problems with Tesla. And a lot of it is just sort of, they don't have enough service centers, or you're traveling, an hour or more to get to one.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of stuff they can do, and they come to you in your garage and we'll work on it. But they are opening more service centers. And the other thing that, for a dealership like this, I think, is the right to repair. There's so many shops out there that could do a lot of the work if Tesla would allow them to do it. Get trained mechanics and have affiliated service centers to your local mechanic. If they're growing this many cars, 1 million, 2 million, 4 million cars a year, they're going to have to do it.
Yeah. And I wonder why they haven't done it. Yeah. Ray?
Jerry, I'm puzzled by all of these adverse reports on Tesla. I got my current Tesla in February of 2018. It's had one service visit at my home for no charge, and I've yet to spend $1
yeah.
on maintenance. So It just seems strange to me. Did something start to go wrong at Tesla around 2019?
I think there's an answer to that because just from the articles I read, it has to do with volumes. And with the Model 3, with the volumes that they crank through the factory and the number of customers that they're having all of a sudden, and the amount of time that the vehicle spends on the line, which is less time than it spent on the line before, that you are going to find a larger number of issues. And so it's in fact, there's another video, there's another video that I think I mentioned last time. I sent it to my friend who wants to buy a Tesla, which is Sandy Monroe interviewing Elon Musk. And they're sitting across the table. You guys have seen that one? They're sitting across the table from each other. And Musk actually says, yeah, it's really easy to make a few vehicles. He says, it's really been a challenge making a lot of vehicles. And we bring the volumes up. It's little things like they kept the vehicles in the heat room 30 seconds too long to cure the paint. And so the paint on the first X number of tens of thousands of vehicles isn't so good because they cooked them too long. So it's learning how to do high volume production. And the S probably was not high level production. When we get to the 3, it is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, that's the end of the news that I had this month. Not very much news coming in for everybody. So send more stuff. It gives me something to read and investigate. And like I said, Lowell's not on here. Last time around, and I think Alan started doing this now too, and Sonia, the bullets really helped me saying, oh, I like this article because this is the highlight for me. And so that makes it really fast. This presentation took me very little time to do, like about 4 hours, 5 hours, and that was it. So compared to most weeks, most months, it was short. In which case, I'm open for the peanut gallery if anybody wants to bring anything else up.
Well, I think it would be interesting to find out what's going on with right to service when you have the manufacturers come out. Since there's going to be more OEMs doing it, I'm sure they're going to use their service network and spend the money to do it. But if you get any Chinese products coming over, how that's going to be done, if they're going to do the Tesla model, whether or not they're cutting out the dealerships, and you're doing direct to customer. Is there any kind of legislative action going on saying, well, if you can sell a car in California, you're going to have to do a percentage of a right to service for shops outside of your company, percentage based on number of cars you sell. It seems to me as a customer, you don't want to have long wait times for service. Although, Tesla's been fine with me working things out. It just might take a couple of trips.
My Leaf hasn't been bad either. I've never had to pay for any service. I just had it towed 3 times.
The other thing I want to point out is that all of the VW information and GM, it's all we're going to do this. It's not we have done this. It's we are going to do this. I just want to make that clear that it's a lot more interesting to me when it's comparing apples to apples. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and watch the VW. I don't know if you watched the VW announcement, but they showed they're building buildings. So when you're right, they're going to do, but they're building
going to do it, and that's great. And like you say, it's encouraging. That's great, but it isn't going to make. I'm not going to make a decision based on something that somebody says they're going to do.
Hey, just a little input from the here and now. Everybody knows the Ford Mach-E is out and about, but now it's starting to get rave reviews. And when you get somebody who's had a couple Teslas, and that's not me, but reviewing it and saying it really measures up, that's impressive. So I think they got a good car there. I had one on order, but decided I couldn't wait for it. So did the other thing with the eyepiece.
Well, I've heard lukewarm reviews of it as well.
Really?
Yeah, that the range isn't really what they said it is. Acceleration is not like a Tesla. The
Not like a
charging
Tesla
infrastructure is the big deal.
Not like a performance, but yeah.
Yeah, the charging infrastructure is really a big deal for customers. That, you know, Ford really is. Okay, well, you know, wait for Electrify America to put all the chargers out there for you. And Ford's just going to wash their hands of it and say, we're good. So that's a big deal for customers is where can I go? Where can I charge? Can I go where I want to go?
Yeah.
And charging networks there. So what Tesla did was very smart, putting the infrastructure out there before or as they built out the cars.
No question.
You know, when you mention that, Stan, it reminds me of something, which was another reason that Volkswagen's doing what Volkswagen's doing. You noticed a lot of the news that I had there, or a lot of the commitment, is Europe. And they've been building out Electrify America, and they will continue to expand that more rapidly because of what they want to do. But nobody in Europe was making them do that, but they're doing it. And the reason that they're doing it is the regulations in the EU, as far as carbon emissions, tightened up this year. And they go tighter next year, and they go tighter the year after that. And there's no way that they could comply with those requirements as far as CO2 without doing this, as true for every manufacturer that's selling in Europe. And that's probably why the US manufacturers as well have jumped on the bandwagon. They want to sell in Europe. And if you're going to sell there, you might as well get your volumes. So let's do it here too.
Well, aren't they really selling a lot of ID3s in Europe? And they expect, I mean, they're getting rave reviews of the ID4 now, which is looks like it's starting to sell here. So I've seen some videos and reviews of both of those cars, and they seem pretty amazing and well-built cars.
Yeah, and I'm all for the OEMs putting out a great product and supporting it and having places to charge. The more the merrier.
That's what Elon said.
All right. And you know, we did really good because I think we're right on time in order to feature our feature speaker who has to move in order for his trees to disappear. Do you want me to hit the return here for you, or can I hand this off to you somehow?
I'll just ask for you to move the slides, I guess. Thanks, everybody. First, I do want to say, you know, Jenny Blaker, who was the co-coordinator of Congress, was, I think when we originally talked about this, she was going to be able to make it, but something came up for her and she couldn't make it. And yeah, it would be great to have her because you see enough of me probably. And she always does a really good job of helping me make sure I don't forget stuff. And she's really, really great researcher and touches on things that I often miss. So I wish she could be here with us. And the other thing I want to say first is really to everybody on the call here today and NBEAA, thank you for jumping on that decision making on the letter and signing on to that letter on short notice. And it did get into all the supervisors, and we ended up with like 25 organizations. I dropped it into the chat earlier if anybody wanted to look at the final version. 25 organizations and I think about 80 individuals. So really appreciate y'all doing that, and especially Cecilia, thanks for putting together a mechanism to do a quick vote. That's great. All right, so I want to stay on this slide for a moment, actually, just for another moment, because I do want to touch on something that's sort of come up for us recently, and it's around the mission of what Congress, Coalition Opposing New Gas Stations, is. There's really become some confusion, and it's two things. One is that somehow it keeps swirling around that Congress is somehow doing something that relates to existing gas stations, and we're not. We exist. We have a simple mission of opposing the construction of new gas stations. It's about the expansion of infrastructure. And the other is this confusion about what we're calling for, and we're not calling for a moratorium. A moratorium is by definition temporary. We are aiming for a prohibition of the construction of new gas stations, permanent prohibition of the construction of new gas stations. So that's what that's what we're about. That's what we're doing. And we're focusing in on Sonoma County, but really have been just de facto working outside of Sonoma County as well. So you can flip to the next slide. So who are we? There's about 100 people on our listserv already. This was a photo that was taken at I kind of think of it as our founding meeting. And it was in October. Yeah, I was going to say we do have some shady characters involved there. If you look closely, you'll see in the back row there someone that looks familiar. Anyway, there's about 100 of us now. Jenny Blaker, if folks don't know Jenny, she's the one that's in the row in the front on the left with the blue shirt there. Anyway, so this was in October 2019, back in the before times when we could meet in 3 dimensions, and over at I think this was at the Sebastopol Grange. And so we coalesced initially around a gas station at 116 in Stony Point and vanquished that one. But in the course of that, discovered other proposals for other gas stations. And so Congress was born. So I think you can move to the next slide. And the motivator, I think the driver for everyone at Congress, I don't think I've ever heard anyone that doesn't share this, which is the climate crisis. And what's really sort of, I think, and I don't need to go into the climate crisis for this crowd, I think what has really sort of elevated it is the fact that these cities and counties have passed climate emergency resolutions. And these climate emergency resolutions say, oh my gosh, there's an emergency. And so from now on, we're going to do everything we do through a climate emergency lens. And then you've got these very same local governments on one hand saying this about the climate emergency. And then on the other hand, they've still got these obsolete 20th century permitting rules on the books that allow them to, they're permitting gas stations like their ice cream stands. So the climate crisis is a motivator for us. So you can move to the next slide. The other one is really environmental justice. This has been a deep concern of mine for a very long time around the degree to which, think about one of the things, little memes in my writing is in every drop of gasoline, there's a trail of devastation all the way to the point of extraction. And so in Nigeria, in Ecuador, in Kern County, Bakersfield, the extraction of oil and gas devastates the environment, the ecology, communities, people's lives are destroyed by extraction of oil and gas. And so we've got folks, if you look at the logos on that letter, we've got the solidarity with Standing Rock folks on that letter that are locally here in Sonoma County. And it's a photo on the right of a fish farmer in Nigeria whose fish farm was destroyed by oil drilling. You can go to the next one. I think there's a couple slides on this, and this just shows that it exists right here in California. Refining, you got the extraction, and then you've got transportation, and there's perils and hazards in the transportation of oil and gas. If you're a low-income community or whatever along the rail lines and other things, and that's mostly what this is, low-income communities in LA. On the left there, a little boy playing in his backyard with a pump jack right there near him. And then you've got the, communities of color around Richmond and in Contra Costa County with regular emissions all the time, but then these periodic spills and explosions and flarings in the middle of the night of toxic air contaminants. You can move to the next slide. And then there's site-specific issues. Every single one of these gas stations, and this is where most of the discussion usually comes around when the cities or the county is looking at a gas station. It's the impacts of the underground storage tanks and on soil and groundwater and surface water, and then air emissions, traffic concerns, proximity to sensitive receptors like schools and whatnot. And that's the big issue for the Safeway in Petaluma that's in the Sonoma County Superior Court right now, is close to schools or the daycare center and things like that. right in the middle of the community, and gas stations have local impact. So some of it revolves around what the local situation is. So you can move to the next.
I just want, I'm sorry, you're
Yeah.
on the slide, and just point one thing out, and it is showing up in Sebastopol. You're not allowed to build a building, even though there's concrete and whatever else, within 100 feet of the Laguna. But the Chevron station is right at the edge of the Laguna. I'm going, okay, fine, right. How's that work? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's very true, Jerry. And I mean, you know, in the one that they're planning in Nevada, I think I touch on it in the later slide here. The one that just got approved in Nevada is basically, you know, in a wetland. Doesn't look like it because it's currently a huge Costco parking lot. We do like to talk about what we are for, and we are certainly for more electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging infrastructure. But, you know, bicycling and walking amenities. The photo on the lower left is the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, and I was living there when that project was being proposed. And that used to be a busy street with cars and stuff. And when that was proposed and that whole process, boy, oh boy, was there opposition from the businesses. It was going to ruin their businesses and all this stuff. They've boomed ever since that thing was built. It's been a huge success. So turning it into a walking promenade was really great. Anyway, you know, electrifying buses and public transportation too is very important. So you can move to the next one. So what do? We on the left, that was actually a photo from we you know, we go to the public meetings and we write letters and we testify and provide comments on proceedings on the, you know, the gas station proposals. And so this one on the left was a photo from a meeting that occurred in June of 2019, which we came out in force to oppose that gas station at 116 in Stony Point. And 2 weeks later, the applicant pulled the plug. So that was our first kind of early success, and that kind of gave us a boost, and we kept going. And then we worked really hard on the proposal that had been at Highway 12 and Llano Road, another one right near or in the Laguna, depending on how you want to define the Laguna. Anyway, so we were out there, COVID safe. We did have a little 6-foot measuring rod, kept people 6 feet apart in June of last year, and that station also has been stopped. So two of them there that we've been successful. So you can move to the next slide. And so what are we calling for? Yes, we're calling for fuzzy picture there of some random board of supervisors meeting, I think is what that is. Simply, you know, we're just trying to get the cities and the county to stop. You know, the way you could put it is we it's not saying we're prohibiting you from building gas stations. You could say it this way: we, the city or the county, are not in the business anymore of processing permit applications for gas stations. You know, put it on the city itself or the county itself and say, we're not doing that anymore. Sorry. Not accepting applications for new gas stations. So anyway, that kind of thing. And this right here, I think it has this language where one is operating with a given radius. You know, for the county, for the cities, the small cities, I think it's fairly easy to say, and I think there's a slide later on where it shows how many gas stations there are in Petaluma. In a small geography, okay. For the county, we've been a little more cautious. I have received calls from people out in Cazadero and Occidental saying, hey, you know, we used to have a little 2-pump thing here in Occidental, and now we have to drive 20 miles to get gas. I think there could be a community needs case made for some far-flung community for emergency purposes and whatnot, that, you know, they could say that we would, you know, we would like to have, you know, we know it's only going to be here for another 10 years or something because of the, you know, transition to EVs and everything. But, you know, with the wildfires and yada, 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 we'd like to have 2 pumps up here in Cazadero or whatever it might be. I don't know that I would be opposed to that. Anyway, so move to the next slide, I think. So yeah, this is Petaluma. I grabbed this from their presentation on February 22nd was the night that City Council adopted their prohibition against new gas stations. It's simply showing that, you know, anywhere you are in Petaluma, if you're driving at 25 miles an hour, there is a gas station within 5 minutes. That's driving at 25 miles. So about 16, I think they counted 16 gas stations. That little blue dot there, the 17, is where that Safeway Petaluma gas would be built. So that's they approved it. It's not built yet. All the red dots are the existing gas stations, and I think there's 16 of them.
Well, that's more than there are Starbucks.
And that's saying something. Okay, you can move to the next. That's just a screenshot from the Petaluma City Council that night. Yay! I think Kevin McConnell's clapping there. A couple of them. Okay, you can move to the next one. And just a couple shots of us protesting. You know, we did go down and show our solidarity with the folks in Marin County who were 28 dispensers, 14 pump stands with 28 dispensers, huge, enormous thing, 40,000 gallons worth of underground storage tanks in a wetland. Anyway, you can move to the next one. Just showing some photos of.
While you're on.
Oh, by the way, I also just want to say that's Jenny right there in the front.
Okay.
Go ahead.
With the mask on. Just the one thing about Costco. Costco is an employee-owned business, and if you have a Costco card, you get a discount on any purchase you use with their credit card. You get a double discount for any gasoline you buy with their credit card. So, going to Costco itself as opposed to communities looks like a place that would be impactful as well. And saying, why are you promoting this?
Yeah, good point. And right, it's a thing where you have to be a member, so not anyone can pull in and get those discounts and whatnot. That's just another shot of us in February of 2021? Yeah, I guess it.
Yeah.
Or wait, February of 2020.
Yeah, you don't have masks. It's got to be 2020.
Yeah, this was 2020. I'm sorry, that's the wrong date there. Anyway, this one is still active, and I will get to the active stations in a moment. I think I forgot to include a slide on it, but I'll talk about it. So you can, this is out at 43 Middle Rincon Road, if folks know that area. It's also on Highway 12, but it's where it kind of becomes Sonoma Highway, 43 Middle Rincon Road, east of the downtown area of Santa Rosa, but it's within the city of Santa Rosa. Yeah, next slide.
That's
next
it.
slide.
Yeah.
So this one is where I wanted to talk a little bit. So this really just shows, and this is on the website, which I meant to drop in the chat a while ago. I don't think I did. Anyway, it's just con-gas.org, congas.org. The ones that we've been successful, the original one, the ARCO at 116 in Stony Point, the 5300 Sebastopol Road is the one that was at Llano Road and Highway 12. And then there was a second proposal. Yeah, thanks for the little cursor action there. At that same location at Highway 12 and the one near the bottom there, Highway 12 and 116, we got a call from Rotten Robbie's in August of 2020, and they were in escrow to purchase that property to basically build the same kind of gas station complex with a gas station, a mini mart, and a car wash. And we spent about 6 hours back and forth with them via email and on the phone. And the upshot of it was that they pulled out of escrow and hightailed it out of there after we showed them all of the letters and things that had come in for the previous gas station. So kind of a lesson learned is showing the work that you do can continue to pay dividends, right? So, we had that body of work that we could show them. What I want to show you on here is the ones that we're still battling. Jerry, if you could cursor up to the yellow, that's 43 Middle Rincon Road. So that's the 7-Eleven proposal. The one that's over at 874 North Wright Road, if you could go over to Highway 12 and point to that one is still active. However, we just called the planner for that one, and that's also in the city of Santa Rosa on Highway 12, right at Wright Road in Fulton. The planner said it is on hold. We have, yeah, and so that's a pretty good sign that that might be dead, because we appealed that. It came to a subdivision subcommittee of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Rosa. We filed an appeal, and that's been pending for over a year now, and it's supposed to go to the Santa Rosa City Council. It's now on hold. So we're feeling good about that. The one that you were pointing to originally down there, 3785 Santa Rosa Ave, Todd Road, that one, there's actually an existing Shell station, and there's a proposal to do some massive redevelopment there with a hotel and some kind of market, I think, and some apartments, and it would include redoing the gas station, I think. So that's why we're concerned about that one. And you know, Jerry mentioned the Chevron in the Laguna over by Sebastopol. It's that Chevron that's just to the east of Sebastopol. They've got some kind of application that just came in a couple weeks ago to do some kind of refurbishing, and it has to do with the flooding that happened a few years ago, and they want to refurbish it and elevate this and elevate that, I guess. And so we're going to look into that and see what they're planning to do. You know, we'd rather not see some kind of massive investment for a gas station that we'd like to see close. It probably should never have been permitted. You know, it's just within the city of Sebastopol city bounds. And, you know, our druthers, of course, would be to close that one down. Way at the bottom there, you see Petaluma Safeway Gas. So that one's the one that's in Sonoma Superior Court. And No Gas here is the plaintiff there. And so there's other folks fighting that. I should point out one more thing that hasn't made it updated into this map yet or on our website or anything, is that, you know, that station, that cigarette depot thing, when you're south of Sebastopol, just north of the Marin County border, there's that Petaluma Gas Club. We found there's some kind of permit application to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District to a group looking to reopen that station. So we're looking at that one too. So these things keep popcorning up, and we're dealing with it. We'd rather not have to do that. We'd rather have a countywide prohibition against new gas stations, so we're not spending our time, wasting our time, and the county isn't wasting its time building new gas stations in the 2020s. So you can go to the next slide. You know, and the reasons, you know, we've got statewide policy framework for decarbonizing within a couple of decades, and that means you start now. You know, things are happening now, and we've got practical and affordable EVs now, and so that transition should happen. You know, the transition is happening, and so making, you know, huge investments, you know, on the part of the developers themselves, on the part of the community and the cities and counties. You know, it's a sort of a collective investment. What kind of infrastructure are we building? And we would say that it's not a good idea to be doing gas stations in the 2020s. And you've got the executive order from last year from the governor saying no new ICE car sales after 2035. Lots of folks are pushing to push that up to 2030. When I say folks, I mean some of the statewide, you know, influential statewide environmental groups. And then GM and others have, you know, made their public statements about, you know, they're getting out of the gas-powered car business and getting into the electric car business. So these kinds of policy and industry trends, you know, point in a different direction other than gas stations. So you can go to the next slide. Lots of ways to get involved. We do have regular meetings if you don't get enough meetings in your life. And so, you know, we just had a meeting the other night, you know, talking to your elected representatives and, you know, the city council members and supervisors, especially if you have a personal relationship with them, you know, put a bug in their ear that you agree with this idea of stopping the construction of new gas stations. We absolutely need folks with skills. If you're a web expert or graphics or anything else like that, we'd love to have you work with us. I do want to talk about stuff that's coming up. So go to the next slide. I think that has the two things. Yeah. So this letter that y'all signed that got sent to the supervisors on the 5th, and then they held this big climate action town hall on April 6th. That's why we had this sort of time crunch to get that in. And so Congress was able to, they invited us, we gave a presentation on it, a little 4-minute presentation on Congress. And what's going on here is, so they did this climate action town hall on Tuesday night. And the plan is to digest everything that they heard on Tuesday night and come back on May 11th at a regular Board of Supervisors meeting with a 2-hour workshop carved out to focus just on what among the proposals that they heard on April 6th are they going to move forward on. So between now and May 11th, we don't really have it all worked out yet, but we're going to gin up, sort of talking points and I guess sample letters and sample email, whatever, for folks to be able to say, please include a prohibition on new gas stations in your basket of policy actions that you're going to take or consider. It's not clear to me if they're actually talking about, I think what they're going to do on May 11th, it's a workshop and they're going to decide which ones that they're going to supposedly move on. So it's not going to be that they're going to be instituting a prohibition on gas stations on May 11th, but they would decide that that's what they're going to do. So process. Anyway, so that's May 11th. And then we have been working with both Santa Rosa for quite a while now, and City of Sebastopol to do similar. And actually, I would say to all of you on this call, if you live in a Cloverdale or Healdsburg or Roner Park, wherever, your own city, you could propose the same thing in your city, and you could just get each city to do the same thing. So we're working with Santa Rosa. They're going to have a climate action subcommittee meeting on May 12th. And yay, we're on the agenda. So that's going to happen the day after this climate action workshop at the county. So boom, boom, two days in a row there in May, where we will expect some degree of action with Santa Rosa. This will be actually the first official sort of agendized conversation about a prohibition for Santa Rosa. So that's exciting for us, and we're looking forward to moving forward. We've been in touch with them, and so the members of that subcommittee are Natalie Rogers, newly elected city council member, and Eddie Alvarez, also relatively new, and Chris Rogers, who's been around for a while. So those are the 3 members of the committee. We've talked to all of them. They're all very supportive of this. So we expect that it will be brought to the full Santa Rosa City Council for consideration.
Woody, when you mentioned this with the Board of Supervisors, just like other municipalities, what they have is a budget, which they call the study topics for the year. And they'll outline so many things that the staff will study. And those things end up being what prompts ordinances to be created. So they have to do the study work first, but they have to budget first to say, okay, we could afford to study this number of things. And that sounds like what this May 11th meeting is after you have all that input. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like you know more than I do about what exactly they're trying to do there. I think you can move to the next slide. I think I'm nearly done. Oh no, that's the previous
I went the wrong
one.
way, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's the last slide, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have one other point that you mentioned. In the city of Sebastopol, for instance, there is in statute, in zoning, there is a limitation on the number of retail marijuana establishments there can be. So there's a precedent that says, oh, we can also establish the number of retail gas stations that there can be within the city limit. So you can do it by distance, or you can do it by number, you can do it by both.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I've talked about this in a different, I've talked about liquor store. Some municipalities have limited number of liquor stores, right? So there is precedent for that kind of thing. I think it does pass sort of that sort of whatever constitutional muster. And
you can do both. In fact, marijuana is done that way. It is this amount of distance between them, this amount of distance from these things, and this number within the city. Now, I disagreed with the number they selected, but I was in the minority. So,
I want to just say, yeah, this is a version, this slideshow is a version of, we really just put this together in the last couple months. January, we did this. And so open to comments for improving this presentation, slides you would want to see. I'll add the one about the sort of density. I also want to add a slide about the practical availability of new models of EVs all the time, practical and affordable, just especially for a group like this. It would have been good to, well, you know, but anyway, go ahead. Somebody else had a question?
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned a couple of things like the gas station in Sebastopol that was looking to do some refurbishment, and also the one on Todd Road, an existing station. Are you opposed to them upgrading systems so they're or expanding the systems? The Sebastopol one was a concern about, you know, the flooding, how what it affect on their tanks, I'm assuming is what you're.
Yeah, this is a good question, and it's a big issue because 2025 is a deadline for all gas stations to upgrade to double hulled monitored underground storage tanks. And so there is this question around, gee, you know, and we do have sort of a decision tree thing for what we, you know, where we're at on certain kinds of changes, and it gets a little muddy on these upgrades or changes to existing gas stations. It's pretty easy to say we're opposed to building all brand new ones. Like that one at 874 North Wright Road and Highway 12, it's on actually undisturbed land. I mean, there's not even a previous business there. It's green. It's a green field. Anyway, so your question is a good one, and it's always a conversation, and we don't all necessarily within Congress agree on what we should prioritize, and our capacity is limited. So in cases where they want to add something or they want to upgrade this or that, we're hard pressed to even have the capacity to deal with it. So often just by default, because we don't have capacity, we don't do much about those situations. I think the 2025 deadline for double hulled tanks is going to bring this up as we go forward, because it's a question, you know, should a gas station make that huge investment that, you know, some of these tanks are spec'd for 40 years. You know, do we want to be making an investment with this thing that's designed to last for 40 years when we've got policies on the books saying we're going to be phasing out of fossil fuels in 20?
Well, maybe the thing is to the businesses that are thinking about upgrading or expanding. So, you know, here's the writing on the wall. Like you said, this is a big expense.
And our suggestion is expand. I mean, you know, in the case of Nevada, you know, the Costco in Nevada, think about this. They want to put in a 28 dispenser gas station in a parking lot where they could put in solar parking shade structures with integrated electric vehicle charging. That's aiming for 2050. And what they're currently proposing is aiming for 1950, in my view. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think a lot of these businesses and, you know, gas station developers, they look backward to see what the performance has been of gas stations and they in their world they just assume that that's what's going to be going forward. We see something vastly different than what has been over the past 20 years for gas stations. So I mean, I think it's a conversation that needs to happen with the actual developers that want to, you know, make these investments, upgrades, whatever it might be, in a project, you know, in a system that's on the wane.
Alan?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on the Zoom. So
you're good.
Woody, I was really impressed how the national media picked up on the Petaluma decision. And I think the more of that can happen, the more other communities across the country will take up the fight. Did you do anything to, you know, instigate the national media, or did they pick up that on themselves?
I think Congress was the only one that was putting out news releases. I didn't see any news releases or anything about it. We did. Hey, Jerry, could you take it off of the screen share so we can all see each other?
Yeah,
I think
just a second.
right now would be a good time for more just sort of conversation with the group. We did put out a news release. I don't know how much our news release actually affected that. I think I'm trying to remember how it sort of cut loose. I think it was the Argus Courier was the very first, the local paper.
Really?
You know how these things sometimes just catch on. And I think that it got out there and we put something out and then others started seeing the Argus Courier put it out. And then I can't remember what came next, but yeah, it quickly caught on. And, I've been involved in stuff like this for a long time, and there's certain things you're doing and you think it's big news and you put out the news release and crickets chirp. And so, you never know. And sometimes you also need to do something to find out if it's groundbreaking. And it appears, now that it's been, San Jose Mercury News and, the New Yorker and all of these things put out, first in the nation to do this. And I still haven't seen anything come in that says, oh, no. By the way, don't you know that, Podunk, whatever, Alabama, something, some other place where they ban gas stations. No, it hasn't come out.
Well, I think more important than that is that it's actually happening. So that, again, there could be some grassroots organizations in other parts of the country that would pick it up and run with it. So I think
we've gotten people. Yes, absolutely. So first of all, in the first case, we're absolutely using it and saying, hey, Sebastopol, hey, Santa Rosa, hey, whatever city, Petaluma has done this. Jump in, the water's fine. There's no lawsuit. That's the thing. I think the statute is coming up very soon. I can't remember who I was talking to, one of the Petaluma City Council members, I think. There's a statute of limitations to file a lawsuit against the city if you think there's a case, if what they did was unconstitutional or somehow against some state law or something like that. Nothing has happened of that nature. Nobody's challenged it. So that's the kind of thing that a city is typically concerned about. Are they going to get sued for doing X, Y, or Z? It doesn't look like Petaluma is getting sued for this prohibition. And so we use that to be able to say to Santa Rosa, look, please do what Petaluma did, except leave out the stuff about existing gas stations, because there's included that. And I can tell you, I was there that night, and it to the extent that it almost went sideways, it was because they included stuff about existing gas stations. And it really should just be, keep it simple, prohibiting new gas stations.
And Mike wants to jump in. Mike?
Yeah, hi, Woody, thanks for the talk. And maybe just one little input on, you said feedback for your slides. If you do put the slide for like saying, here's a whole bunch of new models of EVs, put a slide in there for here's electric, lawnmowers and power tools and stuff, because I think that's the other place that folks in Cazadero will say, I don't want to drive into Santa Rosa to fill up my lawnmower.
Mm-hmm. And so
Okay.
you have your hand up.
Good.
Too.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that input. Woody, I really appreciated the first part of your presentation, just around the segmented reasons and, the environmental justice piece. And then getting into kind of, locally, do we want, kind of a greenfield turned into something that's potentially toxic and potentially a public burden? Do you kind of get into like, gee, some of these proposed gas stations are from really small companies and you worry about their ability to, maintain that gas station over a period of time once it becomes toxic and leaking, or, I just assume that the demise of a gas station ends in leaking tanks.
You're raising an issue that is one of the issues around gas stations. And there's an organization called Coltura, COLTURA.org, and they go quite into depth about this issue of the inability of certain operators to manage, maintain, and then ultimately clean up their toxic sites and the soils around the underground storage tanks that often leak and that kind of thing. And so so it is an issue. If that's specifically the one you're talking about the owners and operators, and I would say it even goes to the bigger ones. They just because they're a big multinational or large corporation doesn't mean that they actually do everything they say they're going to do. And they're around the Costco one. There was all this stuff around how strong Costco is, and they're going to be around forever. And then it was pointed out that a lot of the big retailers that people perhaps thought would be around forever, Sears, JCPenney, a few others, have just folded and that kind of thing. So companies can go out of business. Anyway, did that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Alan.
Woody, when you're talking Safeway, Costco, and those things, have you suggested that they put in electric vehicle charging stations instead of the gas pumps?
So that I'll speak to the one at Costco because I wasn't involved in sort of the debates and discussions at Safeway when it was still being considered prior to going to court. But down in Novato, absolutely. I mean, the community and us and others were saying, hey, EVs are coming up. It was a big discussion because there are some chargers down there. There's not enough. And so that was proposed, and it was they in the decision that they ultimately adopted, there is a provision or a what do you call it, a condition that they include. I think it was like 10 charging stations, something like that. Anyway, so it's been proposed, and also the silliness of putting solar panels on top of the there's a huge canopy that's going to go over the gas pumps. And so talk about lipstick on a pig. They think it's great that this idea of putting solar panels on top of the canopy that covers the gas pumps. Great.
It makes the pumps net zero.
Anyway, they said the structure of those canopies wouldn't hold the panels, so it was anyway.
All right, well, thanks, Woody.
Any other questions?
John has a question. John has a question.
Yeah, I don't know, Woody. I think that's really cool what you're doing, and just that your group has examples of successes. I just felt like I don't run into new organizations that are actually saying, oh, look, this worked, and this worked. And so I'm thinking that there's a real place for what you're doing, and it's effective. And also it makes me kind of go big time and say, oh my God, it would be great if you could sync your roots somehow with other organizations, even before going down the big business path, because somebody is going to object,
Yeah, no,
you're going to have some feedback.
Good point. So we are, good point. And you'll see in our, I think it's on the website somewhere, that where we are working with Cultura, and they are kind of working nationwide. There's another organization that's got our back at this point called Stand.Earth, or they used to be known as Forest Ethics, but they've expanded and they're now called Stand.Earth. They're very involved in this, and we're in conversations with several other sort of bigger sort of national type organizations. And I think you're right. I think it could be a thing. And, I just want to say one last thing, maybe it should have been in the framing, is that I love what the Electric Auto Association and NBEAA does, which is, really sort of constructive and promote, on the positive side of promoting this great new thing, technology, electric vehicles, and it's a better mousetrap, right? And it's really pretty much all on that sort of positive side. Whereas what we're doing here with Congress is we're at the sort of the other end of the spectrum, trying to stop the old thing, which has its own world, but just wanted to sort of connect the two sides, and just to let you know that, I feel like I have obviously feet in both worlds. But I recognize that it's like blew my mind when I realized that there's still all these forces wanting to build new gas stations now. It just seems so nuts. So I think part of the reason we're having the success kind of quickly is because the time is right and it's time to actually, you know, stop building new gas stations and so I think time is on our side on that. Anyway, I'll stop there because we've got other things for.
Well,
Go ahead.
thanks, Woody, and thanks for doing the presentation. And man, it was, I mean, that's what I hope other people will do. Hey, Stan, you have something to jump in on? You're on mute.
No, that was just clapping, applauding.
Oh, just clapping. That's a clap. Okay.
I think John was trying to say something else.
Yeah, Woody, just the thing that what you just said made me, my visual take was, although street sweepers aren't glorified, you guys are like, you know, we're like going out there spreading flowers and stuff, and you're coming behind, you know, cleaning up the trash, not from our parade, but from, you know, making it so in the wake of our work, there's some kind of real change happening, you know, so that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Woody.
Thank you. I added some new links. The Volkswagen Battery Day link is here if you're interested in watching that video. I did add a link here for the Storage X seminar series, and they have now been posting almost all of the videos that they've done for the last year. I mean, the pandemic, the value of the pandemic is some of those things which I could never get to. I'm sure they would have had this in person before. Are now all on the web, and the amount that you can learn is just phenomenal in detail. So a lot of this goes over my head, right? But some of it is just you know, fill in the blanks, and the whole thing that's happening in energy. There's curves that show how much we're learning in the last 10 years in energy storage that nobody even thought about before, because we had fossil fuels. Oh, you don't need to store it, we'll just pump some more. So this has changed. And then also this combination between the Tesla, I had this last time too, the Tesla new battery technology and solid state batteries. Coming up in our next meeting is Zeno. He didn't make it to the meeting today. Trends in urban mobility. I have no idea. I know that he's really interested in urban mobility and alternative forms more than just EVs. And we'll see what he's put together. I'm still looking for ideas for our June meeting. Who wants to put a talk together? There's lots of good topics. There's things that I'd like to talk about, but I'm not finding the time to do it. I'd love to. I give people tours of my house and how we got the energy down to nil. I'm now energy positive. I mean, I'm in March or April. The month of March, I was energy positive. So I produced more energy than we consumed in the house, including charging the car. So, and that wasn't a big thing. But if you guys have an idea for talks, send me a message on it. And as I've mentioned to many people, you don't need to be an expert in the area in order to give a talk. You have to be interested in it, because no matter how expert you are, you're going to go do some research and put it together. I have to admit that putting the battery talk together a year and a half ago, that was a lot of fun. And I want to do an update on storage and batteries and what's happening there, because it's happening so fast. And I know so much more. I mean, I have these notes sitting up here on my desk of, you know, what's an anode and what's a cathode. And I actually know that the carbon's in the anode now, okay, and why it's there and what happens in a cathode. So hopefully you guys all pick it up. And with that, that will be the end of our meeting.
Cool. Thanks, Jerry.
All right, guys. I'll see you in a month, if not sooner.
Thanks all. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Woody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.